Hello everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to take a little dive into a ForeFlight flight plan. We're going to throw some things up on the screen for you and just kind of go through some of the data that we have available to us.
And kind of what it means, what it looks, very superficial dive, but in my experience, people use ForeFlight, and quite honestly, they'll use ForeFlight for the flight plan,
right?
Because it's super crazy easy. They
Yep.
can plan a 1,000-mile trip in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And 9 out of 10 it's direct. There's so much more to that. This flight plan, the reason we're doing this is a shout out to Ben out at Rocky Mountain in Denver at Western Air Flight School. So I did one of his guys' Checkrides and found some deficiencies when it came to he used ForeFlight. And here's where we're going with this. If you present anything in a Checkride, it is game on. You opened a box. We have every right to ask any question we want about it.
Right.
So I found some discrepancies, and Ben kind of took that to heart, and he's making it a point now to teach and make sure everything does it. So I created, don't read into the flight plan. Yes, it's direct. Very, very simple. That's the point of the flight plan, is to simply discuss ForeFlight, not to critique how I flight planned. This is an example. Leave me alone. Okay, so with the flight plan up on the thing, it was Conroe to Baton Rouge. We did it in flight school Dutchess. So we picked our altitude based on direction. And again, if we're looking at it, we picked an odd altitude because we're going to the east, right? So you select your correct altitude. Right out the gate, you have an ETE, so estimated time en route, a total distance, your average wind. Well, why did I pick 9,000? Well, I'm kind of staring at it because there's no wind. Right? There's, and I'll display in a second, but there's headwinds lower, no wind, and then headwinds, tailwinds a little higher, right? When do we leave? When do we arrive? How much gas? How much taxi fuel? All right, so the takeaway is this. When you get to the guts of the flight plan, you have your waypoints. And again, I simply just filed direct. So if you had an airway, if I would have chosen one of the Victor Airways, I want to say Victor 306, I think we could have taken it all the way to Baton. I think it goes all the way to Jacksonville, actually. It kind of parallels I-10. But if you had an airway selected, you would see said airway. If not, it says DCT.
Right.
I've asked this. What does that mean? Very simply, it's direct.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's you're not going to type out the word direct. The next two columns, everything's magnetic. So we've hit on this in a previous Checkride Chat episode, right? Everything is magnetic in ForeFlight. So when you do that, everything is magnetic. So be very careful. Some flight schools actually use ForeFlight to flight plan, and then they simply transpose those direct numbers from ForeFlight onto the sectional, and then they try to recompute with variation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. ForeFlight does all of that for you.
Yeah.
All right. So we pick an altitude based on course. That course, right next to it says heading. We're going to fly the heading. Okay. So that course is corrected for that wind. The very next column, funnily enough, is wind, right? So the first column on that wind is C, what is it? Let me zoom in. On the wind, it says CMP. And then below that it says H5, H1, H0, T1, T2. T1, T2, I'll go old school, I'll age myself. That is not the Terminator. That has nothing to do with any of that. So CMP is component. So the H is headwind, the T is tailwind. So if you look at this at 9,000 feet, so I have a headwind, nothing, tailwind. So if you kind of pan out, I'm climbing, I have a headwind kind of getting up to my altitude. Once I get to my altitude, it becomes basically a no-wind scenario. Hence the average wind across the full thing, if you look at the top, was 0. So components, headwind, tailwind. There's my wind component, right? There's my wind direction and speed. let me skip ISA, go to the next column. You have speed and knots. True airspeed, we just did a whole couple-minute spiel, how to compute true airspeed. What is true airspeed? How is it used? So in the speed column, we have true airspeed and ground speed. True airspeed is what you are flying through the air. Ground speed is what you're flying over the ground. How are those related? True airspeed, let me back that up. Better way to say this. Ground speed is true airspeed corrected for wind.
Right.
So we'll put some circles up. I have a true airspeed of 100. I'm going to scroll left. I have a headwind component of 5. What is 100 minus 5?
95.
Oh my goodness, it's 95. It's right there under the ground speed. Let's take another one. 145. No, that's a bad one. Hold on. Well, there's no wind, so this is not an overly good example. But here, the very last one. I have a true airspeed of 145 with a tailwind of 2. So a tailwind helps, it pushes. 145 plus 2 is 147. That is the relationship between true airspeed and ground speed. Ground speed is true airspeed corrected for wind, right? ForeFlight does a very nice job. You have your distance column. It's per leg, and then the next column is basically a countdown. It's miles to go, right? So if you're looking at it, 221 minus 17 is 204. Minus 4 is 200, and so on and so forth. As for your time, and we're going to get to the point here in a second, it is a per leg time, a count down in time. So flight time, 1:35, hour 35, all the way to 0. But then the last column is a count up in time. And then next to it is a blank column. That ACT is actual. So when we have you flight plan and we have you fly these, your initial stages of the cross country, however your counter starts, whether it be the counter on your iPad, it's the counter on the G1000, it's the counter in your transponder, the 345s. However you do that, your time is there. Why do we care about how long it's taking? So to piggyback off of Wally's true airspeed video, like in a previous video, if you're constantly a minute behind, 2 minutes behind, 3 minutes behind, a minute behind, all that, you kind of want to know that.
Yeah.
If that directly depicts your legal reserves at the end, are you even going to make your destination?
Right.
These are the questions that you need to be computing. Again, if you have full tanks and you're only flying an hour and you're a minute slow on everything, does it really matter? No, because you have a lot of gas. But when you start kind of stretching your legs in little airplanes, it's gonna matter. Like going to West Texas, once you pass Austin and you're going west, if you look at it, pull it up, go Conroe to say El Paso. Once you pass the Austin San Antonio area, there's airports peppered all over the place, but there's only a handful that have airports with services, and that services typically is gas, fuel. And if you kind of really now put the numbers to it, they're about 30 minutes away from everything. So what's your day VFR minimum? You might start eating into that. You might have to calculate land short, get gas, and keep going. There's fuel is the only thing that keeping that engine running. We don't want to run out of it.
Now this is, Jason, this is just a little airplane stuff. Like at the airlines, we don't keep track of this stuff, right? Because we got all the computers, right?
Yeah. So we still do it.
We do
it. I could show you. You know what? I do. I think you're going to Germany next week.
I am.
I'm going to Amsterdam. You're going Monday. I think I do Amsterdam on Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll keep the flight plans.
I will too.
I'll snapshot the flight plans, and you can see we take actual time of arrival, estimated time, like estimated for the next fix.
Yeah.
Fuel, we keep a tally on the right-hand side. Are we up gas? Are we down gas? Yes, we have tens of thousands of pounds of gas, but we're also burning tens of thousands of pounds an hour, right? So it's not by the gallon, right? But yes, it still matters even going forward in the big boy jets.
Yeah, and again, we try to think of fuel not in gallons or pounds. We think
Time.
of fuel in time. You know, part of our takeoff briefing is to talk about the fuel plan, and one of the first things I'll say is we are landing in Munich with an hour 32. Whether it's 18,000 pounds or what, it's, you know, hour 32 is how much fuel we're landing.
No matter what, internet on flag flights, so international flights, my fleet at least, we will always have 115 remaining at a minimum. 115.
Absolutely.
So 2 things just to close on the ForeFlight. The middle column, no, I didn't forget it. The ISA column, ISA. So what is ISA? So ISA is the International Standard Atmosphere. So again, this goes back to that's all based on standards. So 2992 at 15, sea level, et cetera, et cetera. What can you, just looking at this column, it's all +7s. What does that mean? In theory, it's 7 degrees hotter than it should be.
Yeah.
So again, if you see a higher ISA number, your performance isn't going to do good.
Right.
If you see a 0 or even a negative ISA number, that's pretty much what you want. But definitely deep south, that's not very common. We're very hot down here. So we're always negatively impacted in the performance arena.
Right.
But ISA, that column, it's a good way to look at it. It's simply a performance metric. Am I going to do better than expected? Am I going to do as expected? Am I going to do worse than expected?
Yeah, a lot of performance charts will have multiple columns. They'll have an ISA column, maybe an ISA -10, an ISA +10, ISA +20, or they may just have an ISA column and it will say for every 2 degrees above ISA, make this correction.
Make this percentage correction over the long haul.
Yeah.
But that's all that means. Below it, you have winds, another wind chart. Pretty much ForeFlight has already calculated, well, if you can't get the altitude you want, so this particular case, I was quote unquote filed at 9,000 feet. If I go lower, this is what it's going to be. If I go higher, this is what it's going to be. So it gives you the average wind. It gives you the wind components with an average wind. It tells you how much fuel you're going to burn. Is it going to take you longer, or is it quicker? So this is this whole thing. It is a fairly short leg. It's kind of a wash on that. But if it's 9,000 feet, say it's super turbulent. Well, I don't really want to go there. So if I go down to 7 or up to 11, guess what? Your performance is already calculated.
Yeah.
So if your passengers hate turbulence, you might need to suck it up. And if you go higher, this says you're going to take 1 minute longer. But if it's smooth air, I would gladly take that minute longer. So that's the whole thing. Even at United, I don't like getting bumped around.
No.
And the passengers, I guarantee you, don't. The flight attendants hate it, especially in the back of the long airplanes, because everything is accentuated towards the tail. We try to find smooth air, and we need to know how that is going to impact burn.
Yeah.
So,
and a lot of times in our flight plan, you'll see extra fuel. The dispatch will put a note in there.
Typically for turbulence of winds.
Yeah, it'll say 2,000 extra pounds, and a lot of times it'll say for altitude flexibility with the altitude. Okay, we don't want to go up to 38. We're going to stay down at 36 for whatever reason.
So again, a very superficial example on the ForeFlight flight plan, just explaining what little individual things and columns mean. But I have found in my experience, people present these flight plans and okay, the flight plan's done, but they have no idea how to interpret any of it.
Yeah.
So there's a quick, short, kind of 2-minute video, well, 10, on how to interpolate a very superficial ForeFlight flight plan.
Yeah. All right, that's it for today. If you want to get in touch with us, here are our email addresses. Very simple, Wally or Jason at checkridechat.com. Hit like and subscribe.
Send questions, send suggestions. We'll do it.
Tell your friends about us, and we'll see you next time.